Would like to briefly take a moment and say thank you to everyone who has continued to join us over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. The Holy Bible teaches us, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. If you'd like to join us over there, it's only $1 per month at the base level, and even less than that if you sign up for an entire year, and no matter what level you choose, it's fully refundable. First 90 days, no questions asked. What's the difference between YouTube and Patreon? At Patreon, we can take the gloves off. There are no censors. We have, of course, the Patreon firewall, and then we also have Vimeo that we're partnering with, and that gives us one extra layer of protection where we can speak our minds and we can take advantage of rights that we used to enjoy in this country freely. Would love to have you over there. There are hundreds of exclusive videos, never before seen here on YouTube. Please, if you have the ability, would love to have you over there. You won't regret it. God bless all of you, and thank you so much. At about 3 a.m. this morning, I woke up, and the answer finally hit me. Why is it that mainstream science is so hell-bent on trying to find life on other planets, yet they virtually ignore the idea of undiscovered life, intelligent life, in Antarctica or our deep oceans? Well, it's real simple. If they find life on other planets, it will defeat the story of creation in the Bible. If they find life in Antarctica or the deep oceans, it does not do that. And that goes along with the Stargate franchise series. I'm sure a lot of you are scratching your head, wait a minute, what does that have to do with Stargate? If you go back to the original movies and the first season, this is the allegation that they make, that the life they find on the other side of the Stargate actually originated on Earth. And at some point in the distant past, when they knew how to use the Stargate system, they went out and seeded the universe. But life began here. Even the bad guys. I'm sure many of you, those of you who are familiar with the franchise, know what I'm talking about. They had this alien race called the Goa'uld, and then they had their guys that worked for them. Well, they all originally, if you go back and watch, all originally came from Earth at some point in the distant past. And while they developed technologies on other planets and their cultures changed, they were all originally from here. You see, that would not defeat the creation story, and that's why I think we saw the end of this franchise, even though to this day we still see them trying to reboot Star Trek over and over again. Why? Because Star Trek doesn't make that allegation. Star Trek makes the allegation that poverty ended, war ended, disease ended, greed ended, everything was wonderful and fantastic the minute we discovered life outside of our own planet. That's the narrative they've been trying to push subtly, and they're trying to use Hollywood to do it. People have talked about this staged or fake alien invasion. If there was a reason they would do that, that would be it. For the simple purpose of debunking creation. I know that seems overly simplistic, but if you think about it, and how small-minded these people are, especially these last 2 years, they have come out as about the most anti-faith people you can ever meet in your life. See, they have lists of current potential habitable exoplanets, but if you go to Google and you type in, did any humans live in Antarctica? The answer they give doesn't state, well, to this point we haven't found any evidence. No, it doesn't say that. What does it say? Antarctica does not and has never had an indigenous population. There are no native human Antarcticans. Really? A continent, the 95% of which hasn't been explored. And nobody's been beneath the ice to find any remnants. You would think if they were responsible, they would say, we have not been able to explore most of Antarctica, so to this point we don't have any. That's not what they say. But look what they say about outer space. Signs of alien life will be found by 2025, NASA's chief scientist predicts. Other planets could have even more life than Earth, scientists say. Something weird is happening on Venus. The discovery of a strange gas puts the planet into the realm of perhaps inhabited world. Really? This is what it's all about for them. They are trying to defeat creationism. They are trying to get rid of all concept of faith and all concept of God. Because to them, this is the biggest problem in the world and the source of all conflict and separation and angst. If we could just get rid of this, we would have the Star Trek world. I know a lot of people think that all sci-fi is the same. It isn't. It absolutely isn't. God said, go forth, multiply, and be fruitful. And at least in my mind, there's only one continent that is actually held to that command. And that's the European continent. We called it the Age of Exploration. People, for some unknown reason, only in one small area of the world found the idea of exploring the rest of the planet so fascinating that they invested every ounce and scrap of energy into doing it. Building ships like this in the 1400s and 1500s would have taken entire villages, months and months, just to make one ship to do what? To put them out on the water and sail them over the horizon to the point where they couldn't be seen anymore, stocked up with as much food and water as they could carry with no idea how far they had to go or what they would encounter. See, no other culture did this. There were cultures that created ships, that's true, in Asia. There was Europe and there was Asia, but Asian ships were not meant for world exploration. They would go out and they would fish, and they would go to other parts of Asia, but they wouldn't go sail them over the horizon. There were no great Asian explorers of the 1500s, no great African explorers. And those were the only three continents known at the time. Asia, Africa, and Europe, and only Europe explored the world. As Thanksgiving approaches, there's going to be a lot of talk about Columbus. Make no mistake. Make no mistake, he was in it for the money. This individual, in the 1400s, silk and other Asian goods came by means of land routes, which added to the cost for the Europeans who wanted to trade goods from Asia. So they were attempting to find an all-water route to Asia. That's Columbus's angle, but it wasn't everybody's. Age of Exploration, 14 to 1800, motivated by Christian faith and a desire for profit, Europeans explored distant lands, while Japanese and Chinese rulers, Asian rulers, isolated their societies from Europeans. And what do we see today? What do we see today? This is exactly what Asian cultures do. They're closed societies. See, the idea of exploring the world for its own sake, it didn't make any sense to them. To them, they thought they had everything they needed to do this. You had to believe that what was on the other side of that horizon and the journey to get there was more valuable than sitting around and doing nothing and becoming stagnant. And look at what the evidence has been. Arriving in the Americas, it didn't take very long for people to figure out that the water levels at one time in the world were far, far lower. What does that mean? A lot more of it was locked up in ice somewhere. or I should say, somewhere else. And there was a time, not too long ago, not even 100 years ago, that the idea of continuing to explore the planet, places where we hadn't been, where there could be more to know, more to find, that still existed. But it started to wane. It started to wane after World War II. Some people, talk about stories of aliens were found and ships lost in make-believe battles there's no evidence of. Truly, I believe it was a culture shift. It was a culture shift away from the idea that doing risky things for their own sake was a bad idea. See, these two on the right, the Americans built, this one on the left, the Russians built. It wasn't just us. It wasn't just us. But sometimes a find as small as this, a perfectly carved opening into the side of a mountain in Antarctica, is the only evidence you need. See, for ancient explorers, if we had been able to give them satellite imagery showing the things that we've shown on this channel, that would have lit a fire under them. There would have been thousands ready to go. Ready to pick up and head there and start exploring. But what does Google say? Nope. We have determined for a fact this is not the case and it never will be. Even pictures like this don't convince people. All over the world, for the last 75 to 80 years, and even farther back than that, people have been describing saucer-shaped craft in the skies, at night, in the daytime, every continent, thousands and thousands of them, and here's two perfectly clear images of those exact craft on the surface in Antarctica, and nobody wants to go look. You see, they have a different agenda. Science isn't about science anymore. But you'd have to ask then, what is science really about? See, for them, this is job one. This is actually what the whole jab thing's about, too. If you really want to get down to it. This is what the whole jab thing's about. They want you to have faith in them, nothing else. Because God created you too. And faith in your ability to, well, I probably should watch what I say, because it could get me in trouble, but I think you know what I'm talking about. The natural ways of dealing with challenges like the 2020 sniffles. See, they can't have that. That drives them nuts. They have to be worshipped first. Not this. And it doesn't matter how ridiculous the story about some strange gas on Venus, or some allegation about other planets possibly having this, that, or the other, or complete pronouncements by NASA that they'll find some kind of, and then completely pronounce for a fact, unequivocally, that a continent larger than all of Europe, 95% of which has been unexplored, with volcanic soil and more fresh water than the rest of the planet has combined, no, could have never possibly been natives ever. Because that's what this says. Does not and has never had. It doesn't say no evidence for, or we haven't discovered yet. See, they're trying to push something. They're trying to push something. And they don't like it when they're challenged. And I know I don't have to tell you guys all this, but go back. Go back and look at the very early, sorry about that, Stargates, the movies, the original movie, actually, that came out before the series did, and even season 1 of the series. They did not encounter anybody from other planets that weren't originally seeded here. And that had to drive the science nuts crazy. And I guess I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Would like to briefly take a moment and say thank you to everyone who has continued to join us over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. The Holy Bible teaches us, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. If you'd like to join us over there, it's only $1 per month at the base level, and even less than that if you sign up for an entire year, and no matter what level you choose, it's fully refundable. First 90 days, no questions asked. What's the difference between YouTube and Patreon? At Patreon, we can take the gloves off. There are no censors. We have, of course, the Patreon firewall, and then we also have Vimeo that we're partnering with, and that gives us one extra layer of protection where we can speak our minds and we can take advantage of rights that we used to enjoy in this country freely. Would love to have you over there. There are hundreds of exclusive videos never before seen here on YouTube. Please, if you have the ability, would love to have you over there. You won't regret it. God bless all of you, and thank you so much.